Hello, what's up? Welcome to another build guide. So the league is coming to an end soon, so that's why I decided to do a Squire build. I actually haven't played with this ever, so that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something with this and probably not gonna touch it for a long time because it is a very expensive item. It was like, what's that, 75 exalt, I believe. But later on I sold it for 85 exalt for some reason. I don't know, maybe the price is even higher right now. Probably because people stopped playing and the market is a little bit emptier compared to before maybe. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something with this. And while we are at it, I played lots of Inquisitor builds in Arc Nemesis League. That's why I wanted to maybe try a Witch build. Obviously, Inquisitor is better for spell builds. He is tankier and can also achieve good DPS. He's probably the best spellcaster character right now in the game. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some different stuff, alright? That's why I picked Occultist Witch. Obviously, Witch is not tanky as an Inquisitor, because Inquisitor is that much overpowered, in my opinion. But I still have lots of block, spell and attack block at the same time. Not even glancing blows, just pure block. Maybe you can go for glancing blows. Mitigation might be better in the end, I'm not sure. The character is freeze immune, stun immune, because she is a witch occultist. I'm using, where is that? Vile Bastion. Cannot be stunned while you have inner shield. This is also an Eldritch battery build using Devouring Diadem Helmet. So mana won't be an issue. That's why while you have that inner shield and you can also regenerate that, thanks to the Vile Bastion, you are gonna be stun immune all the time. Which is how I did that. So the character is actually unstoppable. You know, you cannot be slowed or stunned ever. So good character in the end. If you can also achieve Headhunter, you can do triple Beyond Deli farm. She can do that. But without Headhunter, you can still do Beyond, but sometimes you die, obviously. So Squire alone cannot carry that, unfortunately. So fun character in the end, good mapper. Eye of Winter is a very good mapper, but it got actually a little bit nerfed after Hydrosphere nerf. I still use Hydrosphere, but I'm not using Chain, because that is simply not good these days. I actually tried that, the DPS was not that good. Without the Chain, I just focused on other stuff and bam, the DPS was so much better. So let's just explain what weapon I used. So most people, when they are doing Squire builds, they obviously play, you know, those kind of spider builds, Mjolnir, Keston crit builds. I don't know, maybe some 10 linked weapons. I don't know, some stupid shit. They are obviously more expensive, those kind of rare weapons. I was like, why no one plays with Poet Pen, you know? That's a very fun weapon. I still use it for leveling spellcaster builds. Maybe you know that video. There is a leveling, just search for Triggered Man Inquisitor leveling, Templar leveling, I'm sorry. And you can find it. I have a leveling guide. So that is so much fun and efficient way of leveling your character. I was like, I'm gonna do something with this for endgame. And that's why I picked Poet's Band. So Poet's Band is a wand, fairly cheap these days because no one plays with this. That triggers a socketed spell when you attack with this weapon with 0.25 seconds cooldown. So if you can have good attack speed, you can obviously trigger 4 spells in a second. You also get +1 level of socketed active skill gems per 25 player levels. I am not 100 levels. If you can also do that, you can get even more DPS because you will get +1 more, you know, gem level. So my weapon provided me level 3, you know, additional level 3 active skill gem, which is gonna be our Eye of Winter. So yeah, that is simply about the weapon. So if you just put Eye of Winter in this and 2 other support gems, obviously, and also use Squire, that's gonna be a 6-link trigger weapon in the end. I'm also using a FakeSlinger Hydrosphere setup, only level 1 Hydrosphere, so the mana cost is actually lower. So that is something that most people ask me on these kind of FakeSlinger builds, because I'm probably the only one of the few guys, you know, on the internet who actually does FakeSlinger builds. No one plays those for some reason. They are actually very fun. So yeah, you can also check my other Occultist Eye of Winter guide when they first added Eye of Winter. That is another very fun build. That version doesn't use Squire, so maybe you can also play that. That is also a low life version. So go and check that guide if you are looking for a lower, cheaper build, let's say. That is another Eye of Winter build. So that is simply it, Pen+Squire. So let me just explain that attack speed, maybe if you want to, if you don't know what's going on. So the trigger skill is Frenzy. You can also use Power Siphon because it actually has Culling Strike, I believe. But Frenzy obviously provides Frenzy charges, which is more attack speed and more damage. So right now I believe my Frenzy has 0.28, something like that, you know, attack speed per second. You don't want to be faster than the cooldown. Because the weapon has 0.25 cooldown, let's say if your Frenzy can attack with 0.24, let's say, attacks per second, you actually lose DPS. Because you are gonna attack without the cooldown, you know, is ready. That's why you need to be slower compared to the cooldown. So make sure in your path of building you calculate your attack speed, you know, check your attack speed, Frenzy's attack speed, with Frenzy charges ticked. If you have Onslaught, maybe also go and tick that. I didn't want to mess my triggers, that's why this character doesn't have Onslaught. If you can afford maybe an Onslaught ring, I don't know, maybe Mage Blood, those kind of stupid shit, because they are super expensive, you can also fit in a permanent Onslaught maybe, if you don't want to mess with your triggers, and calculate your attack speed on with that. All right, so in the end you need to be slower compared to the cooldown. Make sure you have at least 0.25, you know, or above, let's say, attack time on your Frenzy, so you can actually trigger almost 4 spells in a second, meaning 4 Eye of Winters every 1 second. So let's just explain maybe some of the gems, those kind of stuff. So the buffs are gonna be in Devouring Diadem, Tempest Shield for shock immunity and spell block, Determination for armor. This character has almost 20k armor and also endurance charges, so fairly tanky against physical damage. Herald of Ice for clear. This is a cold build. I also have Hatred. You don't have to link this to anywhere, alright, so don't get, you know, it messed up. Hatred is actually free because I'm using Owl's Uprising Amulet. This is right now 100 chaos. I don't know, no one plays with Owl amulets, I believe. The Determination is expensive, that's why I just searched for this and I was like, Hatred is super cheap. I don't know, I just bought it, alright. So this was like under an Exile, that's why I just used this. So free Hatred aura. You can use another aura if this is more expensive for some reason. So this is how to squeeze in more buffs, auras, alright. Free Hatred, alright. Divine Blessing, Zealotry, and increased duration setup, 3 link. Because this is an Eldritch Battery build, we have lots of Energy Shield. I had more than 1000. So try to do that because I believe this setup costs like 900 something mana, which is gonna be Energy Shield because of Devouring Diadem Helmet, because of Eldritch Battery. So before entering a big boss or while mapping, you can also do that occasionally. Just press Divine Blessing, Zealotry on your skill bar, let's say. It will just consume lots of Energy Shield and will activate a almost 20 seconds, I believe, Zealotry buff, which is more DPS. If you bought a Zealotry Owl, I believe, you can also press Hatred instead. So make sure you have a DPS Divine Blessing setup and press that whenever you want, especially before bosses. The character already has Energy Shield recharge and also regeneration because she is an Occultist with Vile Bastion passive. I just explained it at the start. And you can actually regenerate that Energy Shield fast enough. And also, I'm using, where's that? Let's just also explain belt while we are at it. A belt with some life, Energy Shield, resistances, you know, obviously Hunter bases are the min-max of these kind of builds. That's why another percentage life. You don't need that to play the build, just get a regular belt instead. Life, Energy Shield. So I actually tried to get some additional Energy Shield from my items, alright? You need to push that Energy Shield pool, so you can actually activate that Divine Blessing and also have some comfortable Energy Shield to trigger those spells, those kind of stuff. Because this character doesn't need mana, we are gonna just reserve almost all of it. On your belt there is actually a suffix. So you can actually craft regenerate 150 energy shield per second while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. This is very important, especially for boss fights. Without this, you sometimes lose your energy shield and need to wait a couple of seconds without doing anything, you know, just survive, run around in a boss arena or something. Because this regeneration actually is huge and helps a lot to sustain energy shield on single target. You can also put this on your body armor, I believe. Maybe you can do that, but I haven't done that. Let's just also explain the body armor while we are at it. Spell crit strike chance from Hunter. Effect of non-curse from Redeemer. Just use Awakener Orb, combine the both. I picked Val Regalia base type because I need more Inner Shield. After that, lock suffixes by using cannot change suffixes from the crafting bench. Get Reforged Caster from a harvest service provider, you know, someone in the Forbidden Throne Discord. Just get Reforged Caster because you locked the suffixes, cannot change suffix. Nothing is gonna happen to the suffixes, but the prefixes are gonna get rolled because we used Caster Reforge. You are just gonna get that additional curse instantly. You also should have some open prefix. If not, maybe try again to put some life, or maybe play without that. You can even go for maybe Aisling later on by locking the suffixes again. Maybe try to get some percentage life. But note that you can actually lose that additional curse and need to spend another 2 or 3 exalt to try again. So yeah, that is how I crafted this body armor. You can maybe use other combinations, maybe use other influence combinations, or just use some regular body armors instead. Because you can also get additional curse from Occultist herself. Right now I'm playing with 2 curses, but you can actually also play with 3 curses at the same time. So in that you can skip that additional curse. Alright, you don't have to do that. Just use Awakener Orb, get that curse, non-curse aura effect plus crit, put some life, and that's gonna be your body armor. Alright. That's it. So yeah, this was all about the gems, those kind of stuff. We also use a skitter bot setup. Just check the rest on the talent. What's the path of building? Also explained Hydrosphere. So why am I using Hydrosphere with FakeSlinger? Because it just pops on the mouse cursor and just chills, freezes enemies before your Eye of Winter even goes there. So it also applies exposure because it applies drench effect, which is cold and lightning exposure. So I mainly use Hydrosphere for exposure. Plus, while mapping, I'm actually using chain support on my 6-link. Because Squire has wide sockets, you can just easily change gems. So normally I use elemental focus support on single target because it provides huge DPS, and if you also get awakened level 5, it also provides +1 level to active gems, which is gonna be Eye of Winter. So on bosses, you know, Sirus, Maven, any Maven invitation, you don't need to chill the enemy actually, because Skitterbot already chills, and you cannot also freeze most bosses. That's why I just use elemental focus instead. But while mapping, you just use chain support if you can also afford awaken chain maybe. And with Hydrosphere, it can also get chained from Hydrosphere, so it also helps with the clear. Plus, Occultist also has Profane Bloom Explosion, so mapping is gonna be so much fun with this character. So just do that gem swap and use Hydrosphere. If you think you don't need Hydrosphere, just get rid of that because that is actually a reservation skill because we are using FakeSlinger. So maybe you can reserve another stuff with that mana left, let's say. Rest of the items, glows, damage against chilled enemies, easier way to get DPS on these kind of builds that apply chill. Again, chill comes from Skitterbot on boss fights because I'm using elemental focus on my Eye of Winter. So yeah, don't forget, we have chill all the time. Life, resistances, try to just squeeze in some of those, alright? If you maybe need dexterity, this character actually needs some dexterity. You can also put that on your gloves, ring, some jewels maybe, even boots maybe. So yeah, these are your stats. Don't forget to get dexterity. I think I don't need strength. I'm just checking it right now. None of my items provide extra strength. So I believe dexterity is the only stat that you need to worry about. Because this gloves normally doesn't have any influence, after that use the Neve, Ether of World and Searing Exarch, Embers, Ecors, whatever they are, and also get cold damage leech as life, and also unnerve for 4 seconds on hit. Unnerve obviously increases damage taken by spells by 10%, which is good DPS. Because spell builds cannot get any leech from talent tree, that is simply stupid. GGG needs to fix that actually. This is like this, you know, for a couple of years. This is simply stupid. You cannot get leech from talent tree. Melee builds, attack builds can do that. Spell builds cannot do that. I don't know, this is simply stupid. They need to actually add something to the talent tree. That's why don't forget that cold damage leech has life on your gloves. You can also use a cluster jewel with Dorian's lesson that also provides elemental damage leech has life. But normally you can just put it on your gloves. That's why I haven't used any clusters with that notable. Boots, life, resist, that's it. Because this is a witch, she doesn't provide any movement speed. You know, Occultist doesn't have any movement speed passives. That's why I try to get a fast boots, alright? I just typed 35 movement speed and bought something. Because I haven't added any influence or whatsoever. This was super cheap under Exile. I also tried to get some decent chaos resist on a couple of my items. But in the end, I don't have much chaos resist, which you don't need actually. That is the last thing that you need to worry about in POE. So yeah, maybe even skip that chaos resist. For the implicits, I also put more resist. You can maybe put some ground effects, like maybe brittle. I don't know, you probably don't need it because I already have 100% crit if you just follow the same gear. But maybe you can do that, maybe scorch, sap, something else that you can think of. Maybe even use, what's that, influence boots with maybe tailwind and calculate your attack speed with tailwind. You can also do that, so your character can also be faster. I actually didn't want to spend that much on other pieces because Squire was already expensive. So on some of my pieces I just went for some cheap alternatives, you know, some cheap rare items like these. If you also search for some maybe boots enchant, you can get damage penetration or just get help from a labyrinth service provider. Penetration is the best enchant for DPS, obviously. So yeah, let's explain rings. So one ring to mention, this is how to play what is that, Eye of Winter. Actually, this was how to play Eye of Winter a couple of leagues ago, because right now Hydrosphere got nerfed. Snake Pit ring. If you just equip this on your right ring slot, your spells can actually chain +1 times. You can use this while mapping instead of chain support, you know, instead of that gem swap. But make sure you don't use elemental focus. You don't want to do that while mapping because you actually need to freeze monsters, you know, to be tankier and also shatter enemies, you know, no corpses left, those kind of stuff. So if you want to play with this ring maybe, or use chain and also use this ring at the same time, I don't know, maybe you can do that. But because Hydrosphere got nerfed, this ring isn't that powerful as before. That's why I just use a chain support and swap. So other ring options. But again, you can play with this ring while mapping if you want. If you enjoy it, just go for that. Other rings, we need obviously curses. So one curse is a mark. Obviously, you need to apply it yourself on big bosses. Maybe even on map boss if you think that is a tough boss. Maybe you rolled the map hard, I don't know. So yeah, just apply that mark. Assassin mark was my choice. But later on I started using sniper mark. I believe that provides more DPS. Path of Building shows that it provides less DPS for some reason, but actually in the game it actually felt better. So one of the marks, if your crit is not good, assassin mark. If you have enough crit, you can use sniper mark. So a mark plus a curse that lowers enemy resistances. So rings can have frostbite or elemental weakness curses. So on Redeemer bases or Hunter bases. And also some Delve items, Delve rare rings, let's say, they can also have frostbite. So just search for frostbite or elemental weakness, they both work. So in the end you need another +1 curse, let's say. A second curse, alright. So one thing to mention again, if you maybe skip that, if you have a body armor with additional curse and also use Occultist's malediction passive, that means that you can actually have 3 curses on the enemy. If you are doing that, you can also get frostbite and elemental weakness at the same time on different rings. Or maybe use another gloves. So an example is Hands of High Templar, that actually can have elemental weakness implicit. So you can actually play with 3 curses in the end. Or use other sources to apply curses, maybe cast it manually, I don't know. The build doesn't have much gem slots left. So yeah, you should probably put that on your gloves or rings. So yeah, these are the curse options. Other stats on rings are obviously dexterity, again, if you still need. Life, resist, cold damage, crit multiplier. That's it. The build doesn't need cast speed because it just triggers on its own. So yeah. So another ring option. I actually used this later on. It was cheap once I bought it, but these kind of rings can actually be more expensive normally. I bought the base for 2 Exile, Arcane Surge on hit with spells. Because this is an Energy Shield build that actually uses Energy Shield for mana. It means that you cannot normally generate Arcane Surge buff on you. Because Arcane Surge is a support gem that says get Arcane Surge buff once you spend this much mana. It actually doesn't convert it to Energy Shield. So normally you cannot get Arcane Surge buff, which is 10% more damage. A huge DPS buff. That's why this ring is actually super important for additional DPS on these kind of builds. Again, this was 2 Exalt, the base. I just used Scorn Essence. Wasted like 50 essences, maybe. I was very unlucky. In the end, I was like, okay, I got life and cold damage, that's it. Also saw the Energy Shield, maybe that will help. This was my ring in the end. Also put some elemental resistances. So yeah, just use Scorn Essence or maybe other essences that you can think of. If you still need Dexterity, there's a Dexterity Essence actually. So this is a good way to increase your DPS actually. And this is also how you can use, Arcane Surge support on your main link, Eye of Winter. Because Arcane Surge normally provides huge DPS, so you can even use that on your main Eye of Winter setup. If you don't have this kind of ring, do not use Arcane Surge on your main setup, because you are gonna be technically 5 link. It won't work with Energy Shield consumption. So if you have the ring, use Arcane Surge on your main setup, 21 level, 20 quality, something like that, because it provides huge DPS. And that is about Arcane Surge. This was important. Let's pretty much it about all the gear and the gems. Let's just take a look at the Path of Building real quick, and that's gonna be it. So right now we are in Path of Building. So one thing to mention, if you are not familiar with Eye of Winter, maybe you haven't played with it before, you will see something like this for your DPS, in Path of Building. Because this is per projectile. Eye of Winter is a skill that shoots lots of projectiles. Some of them actually misses the bosses, the target. So even if you are maybe shooting 20 projectiles, you are not gonna deal 20 something million DPS. You will miss some of those, I believe. But if the boss is big enough, I believe you can just hit everything at the same time. So it changes. Your DPS actually changes from target to target. So this is per projectile. Do not think that your DPS is low or something. This was my DPS. If I need to check the Path of Building again. Maybe something is not right. Alright, I need to check the gems again. Because I actually tested lots of stuff. Maybe the configuration is also wrong. But in the end, anything above 1 million is very good DPS. Because again, I actually played an Eye of Winter build a couple of leagues ago. Once they first added it, the DPS was like 400k. But it was a FakeSlinger build. Maybe the calculations are different. So I don't know. This was actually way better for DPS, and I actually noticed that while playing. So this build actually has way more DPS compared to that build. So definitely a good investment, Squire. Yeah. Let's just check the talent tree, because that is what I'm gonna show you. I already explained all of the other stuff. I'm using an Intuitive Leap Jewel here. Maybe you can skip this, because it mainly provides us some additional curse effect for DPS, more spell block. You can even get this small note here for even more block if you need to be tankier. This was my block 54%. This is again pure block. I'm not using glancing blows. So you just don't get hit with 54% chance actually. Power charge. Discord Artisan for Effect Herald of Buff. If you have reservation issues, you can also get this. 20% reserve efficiency of Herald skills. Maybe this will help you. And that's it. Maybe you can again skip this intuitively. Maybe use a Thread of Hope. Try to get some stuff. I don't know. Maybe you can do that. What else? So this is a little bit important. I decided to use this. So because I already stack power charges. Because why not? You need more crit strike chance. I also get obviously this. Small notes also provides crit multiply per power charge, crit strike chance per power charge, so a good wheel. And for the mastery, charge duration. So let's say if a boss has phases, or maybe you entered a Conqueror map, you know that the Conquerors take a little bit of time to spawn. You can actually lose all your charges before the boss spawns. Or again, if the boss has phases, you can also lose charges between the phases. And that's why this actually helps a lot. This makes your charges last around 20 seconds, which is huge. Plus, I also use a small cluster, which is cheap, because these kind of jewels do not... Most people do not even use these, because these are defensive jewels, let's say. 2 passive, armor base, with enduring composure. 30% armor and gain 1 endurance charge every second if you have been hit recently. So if something hits you, bam, you have 3 endurance charges. In 3 seconds, I believe. And that will also last 20 seconds. So this is also a good way to be more tankier. So this charge mastery was very, useful on this build. That's why I picked this. Also, we have friends charges. So we have all the charges, alright. So this is good. So definitely take that. For the clusters, I just picked a cheaper blanket snow prismatic card combination. These are like 3 exalt, 2.5 exalt. If you go for 3 passives, they are super expensive. So this was it. If you maybe use another implicit on your gloves, if you still need leech, because again, spell builds cannot get leech from talent tree, that doesn't exist. So you can also get Doriani lesson on your cluster if you still need leech for some reason. Normally it is on my gloves. Jewels, if you want to cap your crit strike chance, this is the obvious choice, obviously. Basics of pain, crit damage, pressure point, double damage, or some RNG for even more DPS. But normally these provide more DPS. So once you have good crit, if you have maybe a better crit, skip this maybe. Eye to eye shrieking bolts, these are super powerful. Lots of increased damage. And also another increased damage here. There is also a repeater, I believe, something that provides projectile damage and attack speed at the same time. If you have attack speed issues, maybe you are still slow, also get that. Alright, let's just check my frenzy's attacks. Yeah, 0.28. The cooldown of Poet Pen is 0.25, so this is fine right now. If I have less than 0.25, that means that I'm gonna lose DPS. So make sure you have close to 0.25. I already explained this. So maybe get even more attack speed from other sources if you need more attack speed. So that cluster is another example. That is another projectile cluster passive actually. So just check Path of Healing. You can just craft it on your own and see. Obviously here, craft item. You need to do that there. The Forbidden Flesh and Flame. I'm trying to use these days because I have plenty of currency left. You can actually play without it. It is not necessary for the build. You are just gonna lose a little bit DPS. I just picked Frigid Wake. This was the cheapest, but still costed like 15 exalt total, I believe. So a little bit expensive, obviously. This is the cold notable. So I can actually also get Malediction or Forbidden Power. I actually started playing with this for more crit, but after that I was like, okay, maybe I should be a little bit tankier because Malediction actually provides Malediction debuff that makes the enemies deal reduced damage and take increased damage. So I was like, okay, I just want to be a little bit tankier, let's say. I just did this, alright, swapped passives. If you don't have the jewel, obviously you need to get Frigid Wake manually, so this is how you should play. If you don't map with this character, maybe you want to play with this character for bossing, you need to skip Prevent Bloom. This doesn't do anything on boss fights. But normally this is how I played. So yeah, Occultist has some good passives. You can just switch passives. But you should definitely get Void Beacon for minus resist. Vile Bastion because you need to be stun immune. If you think you can do without stun immunity, you can also skip this and get everything without even the Forbidden Jewel. That is also something that you can do. So yeah, this was about the Ascendancies and the Jewels, so consider getting or do not even get Forbidden Jewels if you want. Watcher's Eye with crit. Hatred crit. We obviously want more crit, that's why. They are like 3 exalt right now. And let's just see if I missed any jewels. A rare jewel. Attack speed, crit multiplier, life. Yes, this is actually how I fit in more attack speed, it seems. This was cheap, no one gets these kind of combinations. And that's it about the guide, yes. So thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. I don't know if I'm gonna do another Squire build close enough, let's say, because that is a very expensive item. Again, if you have a Templar ready, you should consider playing this build on maybe Inquisitor, because Inquisitor is a better character compared to Witch. So that's it. Don't forget to join my Discord, and if you are feeling generous, also you can support me on my Patreon. I will see you later. Bye bye.